Does this sound remind you of anything? Right, a Formula One Grand Prix. The Ferrari 458 Italia is nominally a sports car, but in reality it's a racing car in disguise, but with a license for road use. Not to worry, it's not dangerous. Thanks to electronic control of engine and chassis, the car can, if desired, bring you from A to B without the slightest sign of stress. Accelerator, gear change speed, shock absorbers. Everything can be adjusted with this small lever, the manettino, from mild and gentle to full throttle racing speed. For the first few kilometers, stage 2, sports mode at most is recommended. And leave changing gear to the automatic transmission. That way it's easier to get used to the extreme propulsion and the thunderous accompaniment of the 8-cylinder engine. In stage 2, the Maranello Racer covers 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.5 seconds, and the top speed is around 325. Yet the 458 remains controllable at all times thanks to the perfect traction control, which manages to turn each of the 570 horsepower into power on the road without wheel spin. Breathtaking. Once the driver's warmed up, he can try level 3, racing mode. For maximum enjoyment, change gear manually using the paddles on the steering wheel. This is when you start to realize what it must be like to drive in Formula One. The transmission races up and down through the gears, each change marked by a thump in the driver's back. And if you lose sight of the tachometer, help is at hand. Red lamps on the steering wheel remind you that it's time to change gear. The howl of the automatic double declutch goes straight from ear to body, and the gear changes to the driver's coccyx. The biggest problem is keeping to the speed limit. The 458 brakes 100 kilometers an hour in 3.4 seconds. That's about 80 meters. And thanks to the double clutch transmission with launch control, maximum acceleration is child's play. Time for some Ferrari maths. The 4.5 stands for the 4.5 litre engine, the 8 for the number of cylinders. The engine, Ferrari's first with direct injection, is always present, clearly visible under a glass hood and mounted as a classical mid-engine in the boot. With fuel and driver, the whole masterpiece weighs just 1,500 kilos and offers 570 horsepower. The maximum torque is 540 Newton meters at 9,000 revs. That means, according to load, every horsepower has to move around 2.5 to 3 kilos. While we're pootling along to the motorway, there's time to familiarize ourselves with the buttons on the steering wheel. All the important things can be operated by the driver. The manettino, indicators, windscreen wipers, headlights, shock absorber fast adjustment. Michael Schumacher worked on developing the 458, and his Formula One experience was called on in many aspects. The propulsion, design, aerodynamics, cockpit, the layout of the controls, at last the motorway. Lots of space and no speed limit. We are in fact limited to 240 kilometers an hour due to the car's winter tires. All the same, the kilometers fly by, regardless of what the speedometer says. Fuel consumption? To be honest, people with that on their minds haven't understood what this car is about and don't deserve to. If you really want to know, it took us 80 litres of super to cover 600 kilometres. Our brief test is too short for any more maths. The motto is onwards, ideally all day and all night. But even the most enjoyable of test drives has to come to an end. We'd love to repeat it at will, but for that you'll need around 200,000 euros. And even if that's no problem, you still need to be patient. Despite the high prices, the delivery times are long. It used to be 30 months, now it's a bit quicker. The current delivery time is 12 months to be exact, and that really can tax some people's patience, those with a weakness for sports cars, who've driven the 458 and can afford it, want it, immediately, without waiting, whatever the price.